Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 6 p.m. and I will call the regular meeting of the Freeport City Council this Monday, September 18th, 2023 to order. I would declare that a quorum is present, that all the notices have been legally posted pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, and I will ask that you all rise as Mr. Kelty leads us in a prayer and the pledges of allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we just ask that you be with us this evening at this meeting. We thank you for this glorious day and for all the blessings that you have bestowed on each of us. Lord, this last week we celebrated the remembrance of 9/11, in which an event in which many first responders, firefighter, and police, as well as those that were trapped in the building, lost their lives. Lord, this is an event that marked our history and is something that we should never forget. Lord, we just ask that you watch over the city of Freeport, watch over this meeting, and please guide our thoughts, guide our words, and guide our decisions, that you might find them pleasing to you. Lord, we ask all of this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I'm going to deviate just for a little bit and ask that a young lady from Brazosport High School approach the podium, Miss Alyssa Cantu. Miss Cantu just didn't know I was going to do this, but she is, go ahead and turn around and face everybody, she is our Fair Queen candidate for 2023, and I'd like to honor her with a round of applause. Now, I'm going to have her say a few things, but it's also a shameless plug because she's also looking for donations. She has to have sponsors, and sponsors are important. Sponsors go to the Fair Association and help with numerous scholarships and everything else that the Fair does for the kids and the parents and the people of Brazoria County. So, Alyssa, if you'd like to say a few words, please do so, but you're going to have to do it in the mic so we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Elisa Cantu. I'm a former senior at the Brazosport High School, and I currently got nominated for the Brazoria County Fair Queen, and I'm so excited, so grateful that I was even honored to be in this, to be running, to even, oh wow, I don't know what to say.
That's all right.
It was all shocking. But I just want to say thank you for even having me up here and even listening to me. But it would be tremendously grateful if y'all would even consider or taking y'all's time out of y'all's day to potentially give out sponsors, or even if I could hang up a little flyer of anything. I would be grateful enough to even have my name up here. And I don't know.
And you did fantastic. Thank you very much, Miss Alyssa Cantu, everybody. She also has some sponsor forms if anybody wants one. Plug, hint, hint, as she walks out, or certainly you can get in touch with her later on. But Alyssa, we thank you. We wish you the best of luck, and get out of here.
Okay.
All right. With that, we'll go to citizen comments, and we'll do ladies first. Ms. Ana Silvas, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ana Silvas, Main Street Coordinator. I just wanted to come before you all today with a few updates regarding Main Street. Freeport Historical Commission and Main Street Advisory Board is having a board training workshop on Thursday, September 21st. from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the third floor conference room at City Hall. So we would just like to further the invitation to City Council to join if you are able to, and also open this up to the public as well. Additionally, Freeport Main Street will be hosting our fall market on October 28th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in downtown. There's still time to sign up for vendors, so please feel free to reach out to me. Contact information, you can follow our Facebook at Main Street Freeport TX, and we do have that information posted. And lastly, Freeport Main Street will be hosting a Dia de los Muertos procession on November 2nd, which will include a community procession led by Father Sebastian from St. Mary's Star of the Sea Catholic Church, a live mariachi performance, and as well as food and cultural vendor items. So we just wanted to share what we're working on and hope to see you all soon.
All right.
That one, Dia de los Muertos, is going to be at 6 p.m. From 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. September 21st. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. David McGinty?
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
I'm here to 521 West Broad. I'm here just to request an agenda item on a broader scale about the code office and issues people are having with it. I understand we have the sound on tonight's agenda, but it goes way beyond that. And I would like an agenda item to discuss all of it.
All right. Very
That's it.
good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Sam Reyna?
Good evening, Mayor, City
Good.
Council.
Good evening.
My name is Sam Reyna, and I reside 2002 North Avenue G. At the last EDC meeting, a citizen approached the podium and requested that Councilman George Matamoros be removed. He was already on the City Council, he was on the EDC board, and she mentioned other boards, which is not true, but, and she wanted him removed. Well, the flyers that I gave you, it says EDC board membership. The board members and terms are governed by statute. City Council appoints the members of the EDC board, EDC Board of Directors, not public officers for purposes of common law incompatibility. Dual service allowed. City Council members may be appointed to serve on EDC boards. City Council can remove members of the EDC board with or without cause. There's no state law or ordinances, city ordinances, that states that a council member cannot be on the EDC board. I applaud Council Member George Matamoros for volunteering his time. On the city council, he's an elected official, but still he volunteered to be an elected official. He volunteered for the EDC board. He volunteered for the Board of Adjustment. He's a volunteer, okay? He works in Old Ocean, travels back and forth every day. He's married, has 2 little girls, and his spare time, he's volunteering his time to be on these committees. Why? He's homegrown. He's not a wannabe or a transplant. He's homegrown. And he is serving the city, and I applaud him and thank him for doing so. Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll go on to presentation and announcements. Number 1 is presentation of Employee of the Month for the month of August. Mr. Kelty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to invite Chief Motley to come up to help with this presentation. The Employee of the Month for the month of August is Evelyn Bettencorp. Evelyn, are you here tonight? I got this application or nomination from Chief Motley, and he had received an email from Deputy Chief Praslika and Chief Schaefer on August 31st, and they said, good morning, I wanted to share some news with you all that you might find interesting. I was informed late Saturday on August 26th that firefighter EMT Bettencourt was asked to speak at the Houston Community College where she attended the fire academy. It wasn't until she asked me about uniforms Saturday night when I started to think she was slightly embarrassed and that I started to ask questions. She filled me in on the news, but was trying to keep it a secret for the most part. I had to ask questions, and she filled me in on the news. So I wanted to share what I think is exciting news, because she was also representing Freeport with her Class B uniform. Her choice, she also has a Class A. She was actually selected to be the keynote speaker, I believe, at that event. And just a little background on Bettencorp, from speaking to her over her tenure here, it sounds like her selection for keynote speaker, that she also received a scholarship for the Fire Academy through the Ann Sullivan Foundation. I would assume that would be mentioned in part of her speech, and it was at the Houston Community College event. I'm not sure if there's a way we could watch it, but they thought it'd be really cool. And later in that evening, Evelyn posted her thoughts on public speaking. She said, "I did something I never thought I could do this evening. It's been a difficult week for me, but as I spoke to a group of passionate individuals that were surrounded by their friends and family, I was reminded that at the end of the day, those who love you will cheer you on no matter what. I'm far from perfect. I'm far from good, but thank you, Houston Community College, for having me as your speaker tonight. It was a high honor to look at the graduating class at Houston Community College Fire Academy and say congratulations. It was a privilege, and I'm truly grateful." In closing, firefighter Bettencorp was nominated for several reasons this month, but her invitation to be keynote speaker at the Houston Community College Fire Academy graduation, representing herself and Freeport Fire and EMS, cannot be passed up without recognition. When firefighter Bettencorp returned to work, I spoke with her that we, the city of Freeport, are here to support her. Almost done. We are here to support her in everything that she does, and proud of the fact that she faced a personal challenge and accomplished it, public speaking. Firefighter Bettencorp has true grit. Firefighter Bettencorp showed that the department testing physical agility in her interview, she showed that. Freeport Fire and EMS sees this in Bettencorp each and every day that she serves the Freeport community. And so thank you and congratulations on your representation of the city. One more. Congratulations. Thanks, Chief.
Item number 2 on the agenda is the EDC annual presentation. Mr. Robert Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening,
esteemed
sir.
council members. The The Freeport Economic Development Corporation is pleased to report we do business recruitment, expansion and retention, and community development. We also act as a business resource guide to align our businesses with resources that they need to be successful. This includes connecting them with the Small Business Development Center at Brazosport College, our local Brazoria County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Brazosport Chamber of Commerce, assisting with getting their marketing efforts rolling and connecting them with their Google page. Promoting business in Freeport, both large and small, in any way that we can. This may be posting on our website and social media outlets, posting flyers, not flowers, or content creation for our businesses. We also like to market all business events and grand openings to the best of our ability, which leads us to our business improvement grants awarded. This year, we awarded 11 business improvement grants. Sweet Tea's Diner helped them with their air conditioning, La Casa Azul with their parking, and La Casa Azul received a second grant for facade and landscaping to proudly report that they are now open. The SPCA Retail, we helped them with window tint. Four Corners Shopping Center, otherwise known as Arlen's, they had an emergency sewer complication, and we helped them fix that. Rhombus Inc., which is Arlene Soul Food, we helped them with the deck. Baytown Seafood, walk-in cooler, we helped them with walk-in cooler. Brazos Nutrition, which received 2 grants, one for a sign improvement and the other for a facade improvement. Five Star Mechanic Shop was a facade and roof improvements. New Poblita was facade, flooring, and concrete for the drive-through. Four Corners Shopping Center, which holds Drini Italian Grill. We helped them with air conditioning. And Marlin's Marine Work, they received our first mega grant for pavement for workspace and parking. The last 6 that I read, Baytown Seafood, Brazos Nutrition, Five Star Mechanic Shop, Mi Poblito, Four Corners, and Marlin Marine Works are all in progress. We just awarded them at the last EDC meeting. So again, businesses assisted, we're 11 total businesses for a total investment of the EDC amount awarded was $138,258.14, and that spurred a total investment of $400,556.64 for all those projects. Other projects that we have, proud to report that Starbucks is now open, and they've received $75,000 of their grant that they have, meeting the terms of the contract with the EDC. Volkswagen is opening up. Construction is ongoing, so we're proud to report that. Taco Bell is now open. The construction is complete, and they're now awaiting their second payment, which will happen next year. They're paying their employees at least $9.25 per hour, and they have created 9 full-time jobs and up to 16 part-time jobs. Finally, Jim Maddox Housing Development, the 19 acres for 125 single-family homes on North Avenue J in Varnum are ongoing. Marketing avenues that we'd like to pursue and have pursued. We redid our website. We have increased our Facebook presence, and we're looking at sponsorships. However, this year for sponsorships, we'd like to do a little more with regards to marketing and properties, marketing our properties and businesses, and also doing promotional, the normal Main Street events and things like that, but we'd like to have more of a focus on marketing properties and businesses. EDC website, a quick review. Visual update for fiscal year 22 and 23. Our very outdated website went through an extensive overhaul. The new website is much more visually appealing, easier to maneuver and navigate, and tailored towards site selection. ease of access, there's direct links to available properties, business development journals, comprehensive business list for Freeport, grant applications, and zoning and ordinances. It also meets ADA compliance with, in fiscal year 22 and 23, the EDC added a feature called Audio Eye that now makes our website friendly to those who are visually impaired, including dyslexia and colorblindness. The business development journals that I mentioned, this is helping businesses in Freeport do business at a higher level of sophistication, helping people to write business plans and things like that. So far, we've got, as far as the journals are concerned, we've got getting started with your business is journal number 1. How much will it cost to start my business is journal number 2. What is a marketing plan? Number 3. How do I finance my business is journal number 4. And how do I prepare a loan proposal is journal number 5. Incoming journals that we have for the future. How do I do my accounting, management, and strategic planning? How do I create financial reports? How do I choose a legal entity and legal issues of employment? The small business media campaign, moving into the 23 and 24 fiscal year, the EDC will be implementing a new social media campaign to market our local businesses. Each week, a business will be chosen at random, and our staff will work to market that business every day for a full week on the EDC social media outlets and the website. The purpose of this is to showcase Freeport businesses, the various businesses, in an effort to attract new customers to the business and to the city. This is a positive way to show the EDC's support of existing local businesses, and it's a very low cost, approximately $1,500 annually. An example of this would be Monday, over a week-long period where we're highlighting a business. Monday would be an introduction of the business, possibly a review of the weekly specials, events, etc. Tuesday would be a business history. How long have they been in Freeport? What brought them here, etc. Wednesday, short video of operations or a message from the owner. Thursday, share reviews from staff and customers. And Friday, business choice, showcase products, menus, recreation, upcoming plans, etc. Event sponsorships. As I said earlier this year, we'd like to focus more on marketing businesses and also available properties. The Freeport EDC actively works with city and community partners to sponsor and market Freeport local events. These events promote tourism within our community as well as an increase in quality of life. In fiscal year 23 and 24, we plan to be more selective in the sponsorship process. But for fiscal year 22 and 23, we sponsored Barcadia's annual Easter egg hunt at a total of $3,500. Brazoria County Hispanic Chamber, their gala was $850, and the Business Expo, which will take place on the 26th of this month, was $5,000. The board approved the Freeport Host Lions Club Fishing Fiesta for a total of $25,000 to promote that. Main Street events, Mardi Gras for a total of $3,500, Cinco de Mayo for $2,500, and Kids Fest for $2,500. That makes our total sponsorships at $42,850. QR codes in the future and currently and in the future will be implemented on our websites. They're just a small and effective tool in today's marketing. We are slowly beginning to utilize these through the EDC, and we'll continue to add them into our marketing efforts. In the last month, we have implemented a QR code that allows for easier access to our social media outlets, websites, staff contacts, and plans. If you just point your phone at the QR code, the little design, it'll take you to our website. Looking ahead in 23 and 24, our year plans include moving forward with the Gensler architecture firm on the 8.8 acre property with their boardwalk development plan, renovation of the EDC-owned properties in the downtown, that's at 208, 210, and 212 West Park. We plan to bring them to a white box status, I guess you could say, and move in businesses into those buildings. Working with retail strategies to bring more retail to Freeport, and also addressing the signage at the beach. There was a plan many moons ago for signage that never was completed. We've taken that up and gotten some architectural renderings for what that sign could be, and we're ready to move forward with that. Also, the Parks project, that would be not to take over the parks' day-to-day operations, but to purchase equipment and improve the parks. This will affect in quality of life issues in Freeport. Expanding the business retention and expansion program to include 2 to 3 educational luncheons and breakfasts. What this is having topical discussions for business owners on how to do better business. It would be at a breakfast that would be provided by the EDC, and teaching them different ways to do better business and addressing different business topics. We're adding to our social media base, moving into TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. That's the wave of the future. We want to get up to speed on those, along with maintaining our Facebook and website presence. Updated photography and videography to highlight Freeport's assets so we can show those in promotional videos. I thank you for bearing with me during the speech, and I'll address any questions as you have them. Thank you.
Good presentation. Council, do you have any questions?
Robert, you had mentioned the journals. Are those accessible through the EDC website?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
All right.
I have a
Thank you,
couple of
sir.
questions, Mayor.
Oh, yep, go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, I was curious, you had mentioned the sponsorships, and just curious, the one sponsorship you had listed on there was for Barcadia for $3,500, and I wasn't sure if, since they had closed, if whether or not the city, the EDC would be pursuing those monies. And any, for that matter, for any business that hasn't complied with the agreements to those grant awards.
The sponsorship that you're referring to did take place. They were awarded the money. They did get awarded a second sponsorship that never took place, and we did not award that grant.
Okay.
And being that they're now out of business, obviously they will have no more grants forthcoming
Got it.
or sponsorships.
And then the second question is, it relates to sponsorships. I noticed that you had Mardi Gras at $3,500, Cinco de Mayo at $2,500, and Kids Fest at $2,500. I'm just curious what kind of metrics you guys are utilizing to determine whether one receives $3,500, $2,500, or more or less.
Well, that was Main Street requesting those. We just went with the dollar amount that they requested. However, we would like to analyze the participation and success of those events and address that and see how it's doing, and then look at how much we're funding the next year. Again, this coming year, we'd like to spend more money on marketing the city and also on marketing our properties and marketing businesses. So we're going to take a hard look at what sponsorships we do this year.
Will you guys be doing kind of, I guess, guest count? So, for example, like on Fish and Fiesta versus Mardi Gras, having a counter?
That'll be one of the metrics, yes, sir.
A couple other things I saw on here. Can I get a copy of this PowerPoint, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, I'd appreciate it. I'm just wondering, in terms of the signage for the beach, I'm glad you guys are taking that up. I would just ask, I'm just curious if it would be up before spring break 2024? Do you expect it to be?
Hopefully, we'll see how fast we can put it through council and get it approved, because we right now, the approval that we had was $9,000 for renderings and engineering work, but we still need to, if the project costs more than that, we still need to come to council for approval.
And then last two questions here, the Starbucks agreement, can I get a copy of that? I understand, I think at the meeting in August, there was a vote taken at the end of the meeting. I wanted to see what the details were on that in terms of the
Okay.
changes. I don't know if you could speak to those changes.
I can get you a copy, and I can also tell you what the change was. The change was to item number 1 as far as what they're doing in their yearly commitment in order to receive the grant monies that they've been awarded. We changed the language to Starbucks must remain open as a fully stocked and staffed Starbucks for a minimum of 80 hours per week. Now, that's not the only requirement, but that's the one that changed.
Number 1 in section
Yes,
1?
and I'll still send you that contract.
Thank you. And then I really like the business development journals. I could tell you just in conversations that I've had with different businesses and contractors that are looking to do work here, they're looking for a journal that says, how do I open up my business in Freeport in 30 days or less? And so I'd like to see something along those lines. And the thrust of that is, in terms of code enforcement, what code requirements there are so that they know what the bar is. And the feedback I've been getting is that your offices have been very instrumental and very helpful in helping the businesses navigating the code enforcement. So if you guys are providing those journals, I just wanted to relay that message if you haven't already received it. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Consent agenda or items considered to be routine in nature may be acted upon in one motion. We have 4 tonight. Number 3 is consideration and possible action on the approval of City Council meeting minutes from September 5th and September 11th of 2023. Number 4 is consideration and possible action for approving road closures for the homecoming parade. Number 5 is consideration and possible action on approval of road closures for fall market days on October 28th, 2023. And number 6 is consideration of possible action on the approval of road closures for Dia de los Muertos procession on November 2nd, 2023. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Matamoros to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
We have a second from Councilman Kane. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, sir. Item number 7 of council business regular session is consideration and possible action of approving ordinance number 2023-2708, vacating and selling the 20-foot alley right-of-way in Velasco Town Site, Block 712, between lots 1 through 4 and 21 through 24, and approving the city manager to sign and the city secretary to attest to a deed transferring real property. Ms. Roman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
The next 2 items on the agenda, both are about the replat that is for North Avenue J. We have a business that has 8 lots, and they want to combine them into 1 lot. There is an alleyway that's in the way, so we are asking, or the owner is asking, to purchase that alleyway and just turn it into a utility easement so that the city can still use it if necessary. But it is kind of a landlocked area behind them, and this would allow them to be able to access that and expand their business. And the owner is Patsy Gonzalez from Freeport.
That alley, by the way, is currently undeveloped, and it's blocked at one end by a large radio antenna, radio tower, and at the other end by a large open swale. So the anticipation is it would never be developed.
A large open what?
Drainage
Swale,
ditch.
drainage swale,
That was a
drainage ditch.
Yankee word for drainage ditch. Yes, okay. All right. All right. All right. Very good. Council, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mayor, I didn't notice any maps in the package as it relates to that particular request by,
I believe it was
Staff, I
attached
didn't-
to the second one, on
the
number,
second one.
item number 8.
In the packet, there's a location map as well as a survey that shows where that utility easement will remain, where the alley was.
All right.
all right, thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion approved by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Councilman Rosso. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 8, it is now 6:34, and I will call this public, I will call the council meeting into a public hearing. for the purpose of consideration and possible action approving replat of Block 712 subdivision, a one-lot subdivision composed of lots 1 through 4 and 21 through 24, and a portion of a 20-foot wide alley in Block 712 of the Velasco Town Site is recorded in Volume 32, page 14 of the Missouri County Plat Records, in the Christian Heininger Survey Abstract 211, and the Samuel Angier Survey Abstract 8, Missouri County, Texas.
This item is, now that you have approved the sale of the alleyway, we are asking approval of the replat. This did go before Planning and Zoning last month, and they voted to recommend approval of the replat as long as council approved purchase of the alleyway.
All right, very good. Any questions from the public or from council?
This is being converted to commercial,
Yes, it is.
and for what purposes exactly?
They're actually not sure. What it had been set up for was like a used car lot. There's 2 buildings on site, and they've discussed several different options. They've talked about bringing in food trucks. They've talked about renting it out for other commercial purposes. They're not really set on a plan yet, but there's a large area right behind them that's landlocked, and they want to take advantage of that and expand the property back, and they can't the way that it's landlocked right now.
Is there any other commercial on Stratton?
There's quite a few on North Avenue J. That's that area back by, Salvation Army's a little bit farther down. There's a shopping center. It's a C1, C2 area.
And this is it right in the heart of this residential community?
No, so the other end of J is where the large apartment complexes are. This is farther back into town where all the commercial buildings are.
All right, thank you.
Good question. Any further questions?
P and Z recommended.
Yes, approval of the replat. Yes, sir.
All right, hearing none, I will close this public hearing at 6:38 PM, and we'll ask for a motion in regards to the public hearing.
Mayor, I will make a motion to approve council agenda item number 8.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Kane. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
No, I'm sorry, Councilman Pena?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a second from Councilman Pena. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 9, consideration of possible action approving the sale of city-owned levy property located adjacent to 104 Mystery Harbor Lane to Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan, Mr. Duncan, you're here. You would like to speak on this subject, please, sir?
Good evening, council.
Good evening, sir.
I guess sometime last week, I don't remember, maybe Thursday, Mr. Johnson gave me the copy of the appraisal and the letter with regard to the recommendations that were discussed at the last council meeting. And I had a couple of issues to discuss that I wanted to bring to y'all's attention. It's 3 issues. One is the appraisal. Issue number 2 is requirement to develop to a specific dollar value. And then issue number 3 is the 3-year timeline to build. I looked at the agenda memo, and indicated, Mr. Kelty indicated in that memo that the appraisal that I presented, the value was much lower than the appraisal that y'all had. And I think I told you all this before, I don't know, but the appraisal that I got through a loan, applied for a loan, and the loan company hired the appraiser. So I didn't pick the appraiser, I didn't choose the appraiser, I didn't have anything to do with that. And, I just was kind of curious on Mr. Kelty's perspective, why he thinks that my value is so much lower than the city's value. Because he put that in his memo that something seemed out of bounds, and I'm curious why, were you able to figure out why you thought my value, or my appraiser's value, was so much lower than the city's value?
Go ahead, sir.
I was asking Mr. Kelty a question.
Go ahead with your comments first, and then we'll get to that.
Okay. Well, I'm a little bit concerned about the appraisal, and I don't know if it's just people aren't paying attention, or, I feel like somebody's picking on me, or I'm a victim of some sort of flim-flam or something, but, I'd like for y'all to kind of like really focus and pay attention and look at the appraisals. And my impression is that Mr. Kelty's the one that talked to the appraiser. It indicates in y'all's appraisal that there was information provided. I don't know if Mr. Kelty's the one or if somebody else with the city talked to him. But I assume that, Mr. Bass, you're familiar with the appraisal, you've looked at it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I assume Mr. Kelty's familiar with it because he's the one that's presenting it. So my first question is, am I getting this property without any deed restriction and without any easement? When I get this property, am I going to be able to just get a bulldozer and plow down that levee, level it, and build a building where that levee used to be? What is y'all's proposal? What are y'all offering in y'all's proposal?
Okay,
That's my question.
keep going.
I need to know the answer to go forward.
Well, no, go ahead and go with your 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll answer them as we go along.
Well, as we go along, we're going along.
I understand. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so, well, everybody that I know of that got property along the river, they got the property with a deed restriction, with an easement. And actually, a deed restriction says, hey, that levee's going to always be a levee. You can't tear that levee down. You're restricted. You can't build on it. You can't mow it down. I think it'd be a lot more valuable if I could just mow that levee down and then I build my house right there and I got a great view of the water from the first floor, right? I don't think that that's what y'all want to do, but that's what the appraisal says. So if you look at it, hopefully y'all have that appraisal in front of you, and I'd like y'all to look over at page 27 of the appraisal. And I think I may figure out why my number, the appraisal, I say my number, the appraisal by the loan company's appraiser, and y'all's appraiser is different. So if you look at page 27, physical characteristics. License. The easement has been abandoned.
Mr. Duncan, you've gone past your 4 minutes, but I'm going to let you keep going.
I didn't know I had a 4-minute limitation on the. on
Yes, sir.
the
This
discussion with
is a,
It's
yes.
not a citizen comment. I don't know.
No, you signed
I
up
have
for,
business in front of the.
you signed up
council.
as a citizen for a citizen comment.
That's correct.
So, thank you for that being correct. But I'm going to give you more time, so go ahead.
Okay. So, the bottom line is, Mr. Kelty or somebody said that this property is being sold without any limitation, without deed restriction, without an easement. Look down on easements. We're unaware of any adverse easements which would negatively affect the development site. Restrictions. Our value conclusions are subject to revision should there be any deed restrictions to present that are detrimental to the subject property. So I believe that, and if I have more time, there's several other occasions where the appraiser says this evaluation is made without any deed restriction, without any limitation, and they've been informed that there will not be any deed restriction. So I think that that's just not correct. I mean, I don't know. Maybe y'all intended, that's why I asked the question. We could avoid all of this time if you would let me know what's the intention of the city council to deed it to me with a deed restriction or without. But obviously, if you look at the appraisal that was done by the loan company that I presented, he came up with about the same market value, but then said, since there's a levee, a steep incline, you can't grade it, you can't build on it, you're extremely limited to, you can't do anything on the levee because it's a drainage easement and it will be retained as an easement with a deed restriction, which has been done with everybody else, that greatly diminishes the value of the property. And so your appraiser specifically said There's no restriction, but if there is a deed restriction and limitation on what can be done with this property, you need to go back and let him make adjustments. And he has in this appraisal, partial, what's it called? He actually has the formula for how you go about calculating if there's a deed restriction or if there's a limitation or an easement. And so I would request that, I think that present this as the, to tell the appraiser that there's going to be no deed restriction and get a full market value, right, when that's not really what's going to happen. I just don't think that's straightforward. I don't think that's obvious, honest. I think that's a little bit of flam-flam to puff up the value. So that was my first concern, was the appraisal. Even under the terms of y'all's appraisal, it was made without any restriction to the property, and your appraiser said probably 4 times in his report, if there is any deed restriction, here's how I would diminish the value, and this is the methodology that would be done. He just wasn't told exactly, he was actually told there would be no restriction. So the second question I have is with regard to required value of improvement. Apparently from the agenda item memo, it says that there's a recommendation that I build a house on the property with a minimum value of $350,000 within 3 years. I need to know, am I being retaliated against for some reason? Why am I being treated differently? I don't know of any person ever in the city of Freeport that bought property on the river that had a requirement of a minimum cost. This is something new. This is something that only applies to me. Lucy Ware, Mr. Crow, Mr. Mejia, Mr. Garibay, Brimage, the Cundiffs, the Gores, none of them had any requirement like that. I don't know anybody on the river that had a requirement like that. So my question is, why am I the first? Why is this something y'all come up with for me, right? I look back over 50 years of property being transferred to people on the river. Nobody's ever had that requirement. And then my final concern about the 3 years development, it is a serious question. The property next door to my property had that 3-year requirement. It was purchased by Chief Garibay. The deadline passed. It was purchased by Troy Brimage. The deadline was passed. Now I think Mr. Crow owns it. The deadline's long passed. Been way more than 3 years. They didn't have a value, just had to build a house. It hasn't happened. And so I need to know, I'm kind of curious, is there some selective enforcement? If y'all aren't going to enforce the 3 years, then why are y'all putting that requirement on people, right? It's not fair. It's selective enforcement. It's not fair treatment by the city, by the government, to impose some rules on some people and different rules on others. And so if y'all are not going to enforce it, then I would say don't put any timeline in, right? And I do have a question also about legality, because you can sell property to the adjacent property owner, but typically having requirements is a development agreement type deal where you're actually getting a discount, right? So if the property owner is getting it less than market value, then you can put strings attached on development. But if I'm paying market value, if you have your appraiser actually do the real appraisal with the deed restriction, saying I can't build anything or do anything with that levy, and if you look at y'all's appraisal, the guy said, this is the value if it's with level topography. So basically, he said the value he's giving is if I go in and run down the levee and level it. And he says that a couple of times in his report. Well, obviously, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I think it's a shame that anybody's been able to block the levee. I'd like to have the public walk up and down the levee on both sides of the river. And if y'all sell me the levee, I will guarantee I will keep the top of that levee public. I will never block it. I'll let people walk up and down the levee all they want. So I don't want to tear down the levee. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the value y'all are giving me is without any restriction, and that's not the true value. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to ask that this item be tabled at this time. And do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 10, consideration of possible action regarding ordinance 2023-2709, amending regulations for amplified sound.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is an ordinance in your packet. The city attorney was going to make some revisions to that. I do not have that. We can still talk about it and some of the issues that are in there, Mayor, in regard to the decibel levels, but I do not recommend adoption tonight without the revisions that he was working on. So if you'd like me to get into that, I can.
Yes, let's talk about it, because I imagine that's why we got so many folks here tonight.
Certainly. So one of the things that I included in your packet, both the existing ordinance, existing regulations, and the proposed ordinance, and what he has done is proposed to add a new section specifically that limits decibel levels and allows us to do enforcement through decibels. And
I'm sorry. Nicole Morales, you signed up to speak for number 10. I should have caught you first. I'm sorry. Would you come talk first? Thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry, Tim.
Hello, guys and gals, all your, Nicole Mireles, 2002 North Avenue, G. My concern on this one is, we have a history of letting business owners they get their occupancy, what do you call it? When they let
The CO, the certificate of
that one, yes. And all this stuff, and they spend a lot of money getting their businesses up and running and spending money to get their, everything looking good. I know that Casa Azul, man, they spent a lot of money on that concrete, and now you come back now and tell them, oh, by the way, you're too loud. I mean, what the hell? Why are we not telling them up front before they go out there and spend all this money? And then, they come back and, I don't know, what if, hopefully, God willing, they won't shut them down and they'll leave Freeport like so many other businesses have done. One of the things that y'all need to consider is tell the people exactly what they need, whether they need an extra restroom or they need a fence or whatever. Don't come back after they're up and running, especially Outriggers. He's been in business for a while. And then Captain Ken had it before. There was never any issues with his, the noise or whatever. I don't know what I didn't read the ordinance, what the decibels are. Is it 80 or what is it, 90? I don't know what it is. But I know the plant is 80 decibels because I do the monitoring. But anyway, I just wanted to just let y'all know my feeling is in the future we need to do a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, now, Mr. Kelty, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So this ordinance that's being discussed tonight is a citywide ordinance. It will affect every business and property in the city. It actually came up because of the situation that we were looking at with Casa Azul. And as we were looking at our noise ordinance, the attorney had indicated that our ordinance is pretty antiquated and out of date and needed to be updated. So that's what we're trying to do tonight. We do have on the agenda later to talk about Casa Azul and their situation that we're dealing with, but specifically in regard to this ordinance, it proposes limitations of 65 decibels during daytime hours and 58 decibels during nighttime hours on residential properties. On non-residential properties, it proposes 68 decibels at all times as a limitation for playing music when that you can hear as measured from the property line. So it is if a business is playing music either inside or outside and you measure the sound level at the property line, what that limitation would be. And I do have a decibel meter here. And please don't be startled, because I wanted to give you an example of what that sounds like. So please bear with me. So that's registering currently at about 61 decibels, 62 decibels. That's at about 68 or 69 decibels as registered here from the podium. So that would be about how loud it would be able to be registered at the property line if they were playing it at the, on the deck at Outriggers, or, at the deck by Bellies, or at Casa Azul from the shelter. So that decibel level is something that the attorney has put in here. This is what the city of Houston uses. But you're free to look at any decibel level that you want to consider. But that's what 68 decibels sounds like.
And it's my understanding that you don't want to go forward with this because we don't have a completed ordinance. Is that correct?
That's correct. There are some other issues with this, and our current ordinance requires that property owners come in and apply for a permit, but there's not really any guidelines into when that permit, on any basis on when that permit would be issued or denied. And so our proposal would be to eliminate that permit requirement. Folks would just have to comply with the noise ordinance, and it would be enforced. If there were issues, they got complaints, police would respond and measure the decibel level at the property and talk to property owners, and if it was consistently being violated at that point, they would potentially issue citations.
All right, well, I'm for anything that's going to remove a permit. So, but with that in mind, I will move to table this item number 10, and I will look for a second.
Mayor, I had a question before we table it.
Let's get to the second first, then we'll go from there.
I'll second it, Mayor.
All right, we have a second. Yes, sir, Councilman Pena.
So a couple of things.
You have a question or a
Yes,
comment?
and I'm framing my question.
Okay.
Church's Chicken has a thermocouple right on top of the chicken when it's fried. I'm a fried chicken kind of guy, so I pay attention to these things. It was actually an engineering project I had back in college. And the question was, where do you place the thermocouple to measure the true temperature of the chicken? And so I just wanted to let you know that, though I appreciate the decimeter that we're using here tonight to give an example of how loud the sound is at 65 decibels or 66 decibels or 68, it's unfair to really get a true measure of that when you have acoustics in play that will actually amplify in close quarters. A closer test, the best test would for all of us to be outside and then run it. A better test would just be put that speaker outside of the doors and have the doors open. And you'll see that with less interference, less acoustics, the sound actually dissipates. And so the decibel levels would actually be lower. And so in other words, in order to achieve 68 decibels at 50 meters, the source might have to be at 100 decibels. And so I just want to make sure that we're aware of that this test is kind of funny. And secondly, that we really need to look into how we're going to be enforcing the measurement of noise as it relates to giving the police force, the police department, I should say, a fair opportunity to not be villainized for coming out and either misreading or misapplying that ordinance. And so I'm making sure that there's a clear understanding, clear language on how that's going to be measured. And thirdly,
I thought we had two.
I'm sorry, I guess it's part of the second one.
Okay.
And in terms of enforcement, the number of phone calls and how that's measured, or if it's saying, hey, this resident over here is just, a cranky old city councilman that just doesn't like loud music, do we listen to that one person, or do we lean on the decibel meters and the levels of that? So I just want to make sure that we have a fair approach to businesses, not to be, I guess, targeted by any particular resident. And I just want to make sure we make note of that.
All right, thank you. I agree, and that's why we're moving to table this, to get back and talk to it and talk at it and talk with it and figure it out, and then come back.
Well, I would just say that there is no intent to measure the decibels at the source. Out of fairness to any property owner, it would be measured from the property line and if it's out, and that's going to be outside, so obviously they're going to be able to play significantly higher at the source than we heard tonight, before they reach that particular decibel, whatever decibel that council sets at the property line.
Very good, thank you. Now,
Mayor, I'd like to point something out real quick before
All right, sir.
we move on, if you don't mind.
yes, sir.
I downloaded an app on my phone to measure the decibels, and I compared it whenever I got here with the one that Mr. Kelty has. And I think it was relatively close. When I pulled up this afternoon and got out of my truck, the noise of the vehicles traveling along the highway in many cases exceeded the 68 decibels. And so, this is something that is not only going to affect Casa Azul, but it's going to affect everybody in the city. I appreciate the fact that we tabled this, because we got to get it right.
Yes, sir, very good. All right, with that, I will call a vote on it. All those in favor of tabling the motion to the next meeting, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 11, consideration of awarding a competitive sealed bill 2023-03 annual fuel and alternative fuel contracts to Midtex Oil LP.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
We did go out for bids for fuel and what we call alternative fuels, oil, hydraulic fluid, all of that. We only received one bid for fuel, and that was Midtex, and we received 2 bids for the alternative fuels. This was our second go-around going out for bids. And so staff is recommending going with Midtex for the fuel and the alternative fuels.
Would, going third time is a charm or not, in your opinion?
The reason I don't think we're getting as many bids as we have in the past is because we're going with a smaller fuel tank than we've had. The new one is not as large as the ones that we had in the ground. So these companies don't want to bring that small of a load.
Okay.
And so that is the issue that we're having, because the previous people that had it, Petroleum Traders, I spoke to them extensively through the first bid, answered all their questions, and they do not want to bid on it.
All right, well, what is the cost?
The cost on the fuel is 35 cents, is 25 cents over markup on anything over 2,500 gallons. Anything under, it's 35% markup.
And what's that going to overall cost us?
It's hard to tell because the fuel prices change daily, hourly, so it's just 35% over the OPIS rate, which is,
And how much more is that than we were paying last time?
last time we were paying about 24, but right now we're using the fuel pumps at a different location at Suncoast, and that's costing us more, so this will be less than we're paying now because the new fuel pumps will be in hopefully at the end of this month.
How many gallon tank reservoir did we end up getting?
3,000 gallon. I'll look it up.
There's 2 tanks, one is a diesel, one
One
is
is a
regular. Lance,
diesel,
you know
one
what
is
size the
regular.
tanks are?
3,000 gallon gasoline and 1,000 gallon diesel.
And what were the prices again, did you say?
35 cents for anything under 2,500 gallons, and then 25 cents anything over 2,500 gallons.
And that's over what? Over
Oh, the
the,
OPIS price,
okay, the index price?
the index price, yes.
Per delivery?
There is no delivery, there is no delivery fee. It is that per however many gallons they bring us. If they only bring us 1,000 gallons, then it'd be the 35 cents per gallon. If they bring us 2,500, they'll be the 25 cents per gallon. There is no delivery fee.
Well, council, what's your pleasure?
I don't like single bids. I don't know if there's a way to remedy that.
At this point, we've tried twice, and the first time we got no bids at all. The second time, this was the only bid that we received.
When are we getting the tanks installed?
The end of this month? Hopefully the end of this month.
So currently, we're fueling at Suncoast,
Yes, at Suncoast.
and this price is less than we're paying?
Yes, sir. I don't know the exact price off the top of my head that we're paying them right now. And two, we have times where it's not as reliable. This weekend, the pumps went down again, so we had to go to buying at the gas stations.
All right, well, I will make the motion to approve this bid, and I will entertain a second.
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
All right, but so we have a motion by the mayor, second by Councilman Matamoros. Any further discussion? All right, if not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Item number 12, consideration and approving, action of approving resolution number 2023-2816, amending the annual investment plan. And you got me, did you?
I sure did. I told them I only wanted a couple of pages. Some of them didn't take that to heart,
Yeah.
and they sent me a book.
Were they?
But
Yeah.
I did get the requested information that you asked for on each of the broker dealers that I would like to put on in the policy.
And the council, if you might remember, I asked Kathy to go back and get some information about the investment shareholders that we would be potentially using, and she did. It's quite a bit, and it's it was a very long read, but it's a good read, and I have no personal problems with using the folks that are listed. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mayor.
All right, and once again, this is a possible action of approving resolution number 2023-2816, amending the annual investment policy. Is there a second?
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
We have a second from Councilman Matamoros, and the amending of the annual investment policy, for anybody that wasn't here last time, was so that we can,
This is so that, one, that we can do brokers and dealers. You didn't have any brokers and dealers because you were basically just using the city's bank account and the investment pool. But as I explained, the interest rates are going up. It's time to look outside those investments that we currently use to get, it's still safe, but get a little bit more yield with the interest rates going up as they are. The other thing is to also add commercial paper.
And I would assure council that we will be very, very conservative in our investments.
Yes, sir. And any bids, any investments that we do purchase, we are required to obtain 3 bids before a purchase is made.
and so for the public at large, what it does is it gives us the opportunity to make more money on the money that we have now.
Yes, sir.
Understanding it's a public trust money, though, so.
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right, then I will call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1, nay vote, Councilman Pena. All right, let's see, that gets us to work session. The city council may deliberate and make inquiry into any item specifically listed as a subsection under the itemized sections A through H below, an item appearing on the city council agenda for this meeting on matters related to community events or in matters that are not within the jurisdiction of the city for consideration by city council. City council may not deliberate on any city matters not specifically disclosed on this work session or on this posted city council meeting agenda. City council members and the mayor also reserve the right to request the matter be placed on future agendas for consideration. Councilman Pena, Ward A.
First and foremost, I want to announce to everybody that I made this at the senior citizens meeting this morning. It's a mason jar decorated. They gave materials from the monies that are budgeted by the city council for the group. There was about 45 seniors there. And I don't really like to say seniors, I like to say 55 and up, because that would include probably a majority of this council that could be at those meetings and participate. It's just a really good, positive feel-good for the city. I can attest that the smiles and the sense of neighborly friendliness is ripe and cultivated in that particular group. And I invite everybody to attend that is 55 or older or plan on attending. And so I consider myself more like JV there, but I enjoy everybody's company at those meetings. This is one of the things that we did this month. Next month, they're doing a trip to Galveston, and then they're doing a Fall Fest in November, and then, I think in November, actually, and then I think it's bingo in December. So I want to make mention of that and thank all the ladies that do all the hard work there, and there are some guys there too that pitched in today, so everybody, thank you. The second thing is that I'm not sure how to contextualize it in terms of what's on the agenda, so I'll just have to be speaking at the risk of being silenced. And I just want to repeat that there are gas leaks. As I was coming out of the Velasco Community House here behind churches at this meeting, there was a strong stench of gas in the air, and that's the second one. There's still the one that's downtown, and I'm not sure what we can do to get those addressed. Those have been ongoing, and I just want to make mention of that particular one here as well at Velasco. And I want to make mention that there are lights in the downtown that are working, and there are those that are not, and I'm hoping that we can get those addressed. And on that note, in terms of overall maintenance, I'm just curious if there are any current active water leaks that we're aware of in the city. Mr. Kelty, if you could help answer that question at the appropriate time, I'd appreciate it. And another question I had was brought up to me about the meetings being on Facebook Live. They're moved over to YouTube, and some folks are having some technical difficulties on YouTube, and I was just curious if they will be returning to Facebook, and or if they can be on both. And so that's a question for Mr. Cohen. As it relates to the businesses and their concerns about permitting, and touched on earlier, the big question was code and permits and the turn times for permits and inspections. There seems to be a lot of ambiguity.
Councilman Pena, now we're getting out. We have that on, I guess, from Mr. McGinty. We've got that
Okay.
calendared or agendaed for next meeting.
Great, okay. And then the next thing is, we had a couple of the properties replatted today on the agenda, and I noticed that there was only one that had a satellite map on there. I'd like for any replatting that's brought to council to not only have the maps that were there in terms of the, I guess, schematics, to also have a satellite visual and highlighted, so that not only can council delineate what we're looking at and voting on, but that the citizens can also see those maps versus having a puzzled look. And I think that was touched on in the last meeting too. Last but not least, in a meeting we had in June regarding the concern that was brought to me, and I brought it to council, about the rehab for the the city council hall, city hall building being awarded to a contractor, Mr. Kelty.
Councilman Pena, that's...
Well, I just want to make mention, we're evaluating,
that is...
we're going to be evaluating
that is-
Mr. Kelty in executive session.
That's fine, and that can be talked about in an executive session, but it's not for this
Right.
particular item in this particular time, sir.
So so let me finish to say this then, and that is that I just want to request security, since tempers got flared because we were talking about Mr. Kelty before. We're going to be talking about Mr. Kelty at length tonight. I hope that there is additional security for my security's sake and for the rest of council's. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilman Kane.
First off, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up tonight. We actually have a lot of good stuff going on in Freeport right now and coming up in the very near future. If you've seen the first screen that was on the boards this evening, starting October 2nd, we got the Dia de los Muertos. October 6th was not on there, which is National Night Out. October 7, we got Community Cleanup. And we can't forget October 26th is Fright Night. And then October 28th, the fall market days. You know, personally, it's a hell of a time to be in Freeport. A lot of good things to look forward to. I would also like to point out that the north side of the 1700 block 9th Street concrete repair has been completed, and they have started on the south side of that street. Hopefully, in a couple weeks or so, it too will be completed, and it is my understanding that once that is done, then CenterPoint will continue the electrical connection to the new light poles that were installed on 10th and 11th Street. So, even more good things coming in our future. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Man Morris, Ward C.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to thank all the residents who attended in person and viewed online. I would also like to thank all those residents who spoke during citizens' comments and agenda items. On September 23rd, I'd like to make mention again at the Freeport Municipal Park Pavilion, beginning at 9 a.m., lasting until 10:30 a.m. I'll be holding a Donuts with George Town Hall for all Ward C residents and any other City of Freeport residents who want to attend. Bring your questions. Hopefully I can have some answers. Also, on September 26th, at the Freeport River Place from 12 noon or till 6:30, the Brazoria County Hispanic Chamber, in conjunction with the Freeport EDC, will host a business expo. I'd like to invite all Freeport businesses to this expo. There will be an after-hours portion for those Freeport businesses who can't attend during daytime working hours from 5 to 6:30. And then last and definitely not least, I've been driving around my ward and other parts of the city, and I've noticed a lot of the hard work that our Public Works Department has been putting in, taking care of issues caused by drought and other extenuating circumstances out of their control. So I'd like to thank y'all. Your hard work does not go unnoticed. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Rosso, Ward D.
Yes, I'd like to say that Ward D is in good shape. I ride around and I look all over the city, and we're doing a great job. I don't see anybody standing around leaning against their vehicles, and I'm glad to live in Freeport. I think Freeport is a beautiful city. A lot of work going on, a lot of positive things are going on, and I hope that they continue. And you'll never hear me badmouth the city of Freeport, because the guys and girls that's in charge of this city are the ones that's doing the work, not us up here in the council, and not a lot of you guys out there. We have employees that do what they're supposed to do, and they have superiors. And I appreciate what the people that's in charge, I appreciate what they're doing. One thing I don't appreciate is being badmouthed on social media. I don't know how y'all gonna take this, but I don't appreciate being badmouthed on social media. My name should not be brought up. I'm just one vote. That's all I am, one vote. And I vote my mind, I vote my conscience, I vote my heart. So anyone that wants to badmouth me on social media, don't do it. Please, don't do it. It's ugly. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, sir. City Manager Tim Kelton, announcement and comments. La Casa Azul.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I get into that, I also wanted to mention that it was not on the original flyer, but we also have National Night Out coming up at the park and I believe that's on October 3rd. So I want to encourage
Sixth.
everybody to come out and,
6.
October 3rd? Yes.
It's wrong on the website then.
Tuesday, October 3rd? And the hours of that, Chief?
6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
And that'll be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Freeport Municipal Park. So come out and support our first responders. There should be some really good things going on that night, a lot of fun. I also wanted to point out and remind everybody, October 7th is community cleanup, and I am going to try to go ahead and get word out tomorrow that we'll do another community garage sale drive to be held the weekend before that, so that'd be on the 30th. And we'll get that on Facebook and social media and on our website tomorrow. La Casa Azul, so at the special meeting that we had, there was a number of folks here that got up and spoke, and so I met this last week with Chief Howell, and I know that she spoke to a number of the residents after the meeting, but just to correct the record on a few things, and Ms. Roman, if you all want to come up, we can go ahead and talk about what was going on that caused all of the uproar. As they're making their way up here, I do know that Ms. Roman and the EDC and the city have been working with the owners of Casa Azul, and we're all excited about them bringing their business to the city. I know that when they had originally applied for their business permits at that location, they were originally talking about a food truck court, and then added in the sale of micheladas for that. There originally was not any mention of a mass gathering place for entertainment of that nature during that process. And so that's kind of what's thrown us for a little bit of a loop, because it was unexpected and it was not part of the certificate of occupancy that was issued. When it was mentioned that there was a verbal CO that was given, that was actually a temporary certificate of occupation, because there was a few things that they still needed to do. But we did want to let them go ahead and open, and that was issued a while back, correct?
Yes.
So if you want to go ahead and take over from there.
Yes, we've had a lot of meetings and a lot of back and forth.
I'm sorry, can you speak up, please? Thank you.
You can take it out and just hold
Is
it.
it better?
That's better, thank you.
Okay. Yes, we've been working with the EDC and Casa Azul. In the beginning, yes, we had several pre-development meetings, a lot of emails back and forth. She wanted to do the property in stages, and we always encourage that. The original permit that was applied for was just for a parking lot for food trucks. And it morphed over time. There were just different permits that came in, different things that were applied for. And so now it's a different occupancy than what it was originally meant to be. Like I said, it's quite a different set of requirements for a food truck court than for an entertainment bar that sells alcohol. There's different occupancy limits, there's different building codes, there's a lot of different requirements that need to be met, but we had a lot of communication with them. I know there was over 20 emails back and forth. We had a lot of great communication from the EDC. They were very helpful, and they granted some grants for that property, so I really feel like we were working well together. We did require them to replat. We allowed them to do the parking lot, but once they started adding buildings, expanding, that does require a replat. You can't build across a building line. So that was one of the requirements that we had requested, was the replat of the property, because it was 6 narrow lots instead of one large piece of property. Let's see, what else?
So in regard to some of the
Hold on a
comments
second,
that they mentioned, in regard to food trucks, there was mentioned last time that, that food trucks couldn't get permits here. Can you address that comment?
Actually, we have had a huge incline in food trucks. So we pulled up the numbers for each year. So we went back to 2019, right prior to COVID. So we had 8 food trucks that were licensed in the city of Freeport. During COVID, 20 and 21, we only had 1. Last year in 2022, we had 17, and this year so far, we have already had 25, and we still have 2.5 months left in the year. Likewise, with new businesses, in 19, we had 19 new businesses in Freeport. In 2020, we had 33. In 21 and 22, it was 26 and then 28. And so far this year, in 2023, we've already had 39 new businesses open in the city of Freeport. We still have 2.5 months left, so I expect that to be in the 40s. So we've almost doubled the number of new businesses that are coming here. And I would like to thank our contractors. You know, we have a lot of good contractors here. I know you're only hearing the negative, but we have over 340 registered contractors that are current on their licenses and do business in Freeport. And we really appreciate those.
Okay, very good. Yes, ma'am. Why don't you step back real quick?
Sure.
Thank you for letting me speak. I don't know
No, yeah,
the
but
logistics and all.
you just got to fill out a form,
Oh,
but after you speak.
okay.
Thank you.
So the replat,
Oh, and go ahead and tell us your name and where you live.
sorry, Cassie. Hello?
Yep. You-
Hello? Oh, there you go. My name is Cassie. I'm one of the owners at La Casa Azul. And we did have great communication, but some things were not, so like the,
Replat, what the document is.
so the replat, we were told, yes, we were allowed to put the parking lot down. We were thankful for that. And we never touched the structure before we were forced to replat, and that was the whole issue, right? Because we were not gonna change anything, but we weren't even gonna tilt it, nothing, because it was tilted before. We weren't even gonna strain it or anything. We made that clear, and I asked repeatedly, and we were still forced to replat. So then at that point, we were like, okay, well, let's just make the restroom bigger, let's strain it out, make it more appealing. But the other than the parking lot, we did not touch the structure or the entity of the building, okay? The second thing, the food truck list that she just mentioned, we called every single one, maybe 3 times of the 17, or I have it printed out, and I called them over and over, and my manager called them over and over, and we didn't get a single one from that list, because they're not updated. They're not valid permits. Like they still have to go back. They're not true. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, and those food trucks there, they're not up and running. Where do you see the food trucks here in the city of Freeport? Like realistically, if there's 17 or there's 20 or there's 30, where do you see them? I mean, I don't see them unless they're on our property. I haven't seen any. And so there's one maybe across from us. Guevara's is shut down. They don't open. None of the food trucks here. And then, yeah, we have over 350 contractors open, and as a contractor myself, like City of Lake Jackson and City of Clute and City of Angleton, I promise you, if you ask them, they had more than 350 contractors registered. And so that's what's frustrating, and okay, I know she didn't comment on this, but the City of, City of Occupancy, yes, we did it in phases because financially we can't afford to do a building or a project, especially without the EDC's help. Like we weren't financially going to be able to do the entire structure. So yes, that's why we did it in phases, but we never intended in lying or saying something else. I mean, even if you say that we did lie, the food truck park itself, it's not gonna fit on the parking lot. Like, we only got 5,000 square feet of the parking lot itself, and we can't even put more food trucks there, even if we wanted to make it a food truck park. So.
And let me say this, and I don't think anybody's saying you're lying. I just think they're saying that there's miscommunication, could be on our part, could be on your part, could be on both y'all's parts. But there was some miscommunication, but I don't think anybody's saying you're lying, so.
Sorry, I misspoke there.
No, that's okay.
What I'm trying to say.
You're young and you're passionate.
Yes. I mean, we're young, we're trying to do this. I mean, we're able to get more people out here to city council meetings because it's starting to affect us. And like, at this point, you don't even want to open a business. Like right now, every single day, I'm thinking, when are they going to come and shut me down because of the occupancy? Yeah, it's unexpected that we got so many people out to the city of Freeport. Why is that a bad thing? Like, I don't see that as a bad thing. We have enough bathrooms, we have enough people. Maybe we convince more food trucks to come down and are actually registered with you guys. Maybe they park on these festivals. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's so frustrating to be a part of this new generation, and I haven't been able to just see the light because I'm still like we passed so much financially, and like we replatted, fine. $6,000 down the drain, fine. Why? I didn't want to argue, I wanted to open. We opened within 6 months of buying the property. There's no other businesses here in the city of Freeport that are doing that. We were just passionate, we were trying to push through. And right now, honestly, like, it just feels like we're getting pushed back. And if our occupancy does change, I mean, how does that benefit the city of Freeport? Like, truthfully, other than getting more people out here, how does that, if whenever you guys vote on it or talk about it, or even the music, just take into consideration the amount of people we bring in outside of the city of Freeport. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. No. Okay. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Yep, sorry. And you got to fill out a form. Cass, don't forget the form. There you go.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I came last time. I'm a resident of Freeport, also a patron of Plaza Azul. You mentioned a lot of numbers, and I appreciate the insight. We do like that.
And let me do this real quick, Sarah. Just address it to us. Don't address it.
Okay, yes, sorry.
Thank you. That's okay.
With those statistics, I would like to know how many of those each year were retained. What's the longevity of a business in Freeport? If we're continuously opening new businesses in Freeport, but we're not seeing Freeport really grow in the way that they're opening, makes me think that maybe they're not staying open very long. And then also I would just urge with all of your sessions, as well as the work that you do with city employees and everyone a part of these teams, to again, as Cassie had begged, that we remain cognizant of what we want Freeport to be, the good we want to do to the city, and to think outside of the box here and not just go with, well, that's how we've always done it, or, well, this is what we think is best. I appreciate every single one of your time volunteering to be on our council. At the same time, think about the generations under you. I'm sure you all have children or grandchildren, who knows, and think about how we can build Freeport for not just us, but the people who probably aren't here yet. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. You need to fill out a form too when you get done. All right, thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
My name is Oscar Aquines. I'm a father of Cassie.
You ought to be very proud, sir.
And all that I want to say is, it's so hard. They're little kids. They want to success. They want to grow. What do you want for a family? What do you like to be your kids to be doing when they're big? I'm so proud to have them, 22 years old. Instead of be using drugs, doing something else, they're trying to be successful. Bring something to the city, okay? And I think this got to be valuable for everybody in terms to take consideration of the new generations. Because we're going to be out here probably next 20 years, 10 years, or whatever it's going to take us.
Let's go 35.
And what's going to happen? Somebody else is going to come and be in her position, my position, your position, everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to just start young and trying to do something for the community. I hear a couple comments besides this on replats. For example, trying to sell the easements to the businesses. Do you guys really consider it? You have a problem with the drainage in the future? If this community grows and you have a problems with drainage plan and everything, what are you going to use? You're going to buy the property back from the businesses? You're going to get removing families in order to have enough drainage for the community? There can be a lot of problems later on. I'm in a construction business, and if you guys are going to prove that, I just want to take consideration that if they're going to be allowed to buy that piece of property, it's going to be an easement, giving a hard engineer to take their job and check, make sure they're gonna be the properly drainage on the property to not affect the rest of the community. This is gonna be a problem. I used to build in Houston downtown, houses, and it's a big problem. You gotta be allowed to have enough drainage plan to you be available to build a house there. Why? Because you never know what's gonna happen later on. Somebody is gonna come and build houses and they say it's gonna buy, for example, the lot that they have, six lots. And you have a regulation to be available to do townhouses, 2-story, 3 stories. And they're gonna put 6 on them, on the property. What's gonna happen with the drainage? Because everything's gonna be full of concrete, correct? Well, I'm wrong. So what's gonna happen? Where the water is gonna go? Where all the water is gonna go? How do you guys pretend to fix a drainage problem if you sold all of that easement properties? Because they belong to the city, and they can do, you guys can be allowed to do whatever you like to do in terms to help the community to get all the water out to the proper place before they get flooded in the house, flooding all the houses. So it's really a point that you guys need to check on that. I'm not against that. I mean, they can buy whatever they buy, and you guys can sell whatever you want to sell. But it's got to be something in specific that they really do something on drainage. Because it's going to be a future problem for the community.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Yes, sir.
My English probably is not perfect.
No, it's good.
But I'm trying to do my best. And thank you for all your support. Supporting all these businesses is good. It is good for the community. Let's make some changes. There is a problem for the music. Let's get an agreement. Let's say, hey, you'll be allowed to do this much volume on the music, 68 or 75 or 65, whatever is going to be fair for everybody. I understand. I personally was driving on Saturday night around the neighborhood, hearing the music, how far you can hear them, how bad is the situation. And I'm with you as well. I mean, I don't want to be sleeping in the middle of the night in my house and have all the loud music around. I completely understand.
Uh-oh, Cassie.
Well, let's make something fair for everybody.
Yes, sir.
Okay? I mean, it's got to be a point that we can get and several levels that everybody can be fine with everything. Okay? And it's not to cause a problem against others. It's just trying to speak and say what can be allowed to do. And thank you for having all these meetings. I've never been in the meetings before. I just come last week and this week. And you know what? I like it. Probably you're going to see me every Monday here. All right? Thank you. Have a good day.
Just remember, you got to fill out a form. All right, there you go. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies, everybody present. I'm Suzette Aquinez, obviously family member, Casa Azul. Everything's pretty much been touched. I've addressed a certain number of you in the past, and all I want to say is she is ferocious and she will not stop. And not in a bad way, but she has this passion and this drive and this fire inside of her that not a lot of people do, especially not her age. I'm older than her, and she's done so much. And she's paved a way, not just for her, but for others around her. And she's inspiring other local businesses that have yet to launch, get to that point. She is ferocious. And she has a father, we have a father who has been in the business, in a business mindset for over 30 years. In construction, knows the ins and outs. We have worked in construction since we were old enough to read and write. We can read blueprints and we can work in code enforcements and building zones and planning and architecture designs, and we will break it down for you as quick as a hatch. We are not trying to close. We are not trying to be a burden on you or the city. If anything, we are trying to create more of a community here, which I can see that you guys clearly have. We currently reside in Lake Jackson, and we are going to be future residents of Freeport, God willing.
we want to make a positive impact, and we're trying to do every step that we can to get to that point. So whatever we can do to get there, we will get there. Because like I said, she is ferocious, and she has a plan, and she's going to do whatever it takes to get there, okay? So if it's going to be this meeting, next year, however long, she will be here. We will be here. And every single person that you see in here will be here. Thank you.
Thank you, and fill out a form, there you go. Thank you. But let me be real clear, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody up here wants to see Casa Azul closed. We want to see it prosper. I want to see it thrive. I'm an old fogey, so I go to bed at 9:30. But I tried to go over there to eat lunch, and I saw 2 cars, but I wasn't sure if it was open or not. Is it open for lunch? No?
No, none of the food trucks want to be there because there's no, like, music, no nothing.
No, they won't.
They don't want to get there until about 5 or 6 o'clock.
All right, so 5 or 6 o'clock, then I'll be there, and I'll grab something to eat and get something called a michelada. What is that? Michelada. What's a michelada?
It's like a Virgin Mary, it's like a Bloody Mary.
Okay.
Beer.
I can do that. All right. Anything else on La Casa Azul?
Mayor, can I speak?
Yes, sir.
I actually live a block and a half from where you guys are posted up. And this past Friday and Saturday was awesome with the music. So I'm just making a statement. If that music stays like that, we won't have any problem with music.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, outrigger sign, Mr. Kelty.
One more thing
Sorry?
on Casa Azul.
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
Were we going to speak about the cops, the police cars?
I have the video and then talk about the noise and the response, but.
Okay, what police cars, what are we talking about?
So, thank you, Councilman Kane. So at the last meeting and everything, Casa Azul had mentioned about feeling harassed, if you will, by the police department. That obviously was a big red flag for me because it's not a part of our vision. It's part of our vision to have, our community and our visitors feel safe and secure. So as soon as the council meeting was over, I had went over and introduced myself to her and asked her if she had a few minutes to be able to speak with me, and spoke with her and several members of her family as well. So the weekend of September 1st, where this kind of all originated from, we had a total of 6 complaints that came about that weekend. That's what brought us to that location. I can promise you, for police officers, loud music calls, that's like going to a barking dog call. That's not exactly, fighting crime. So they're not geared up to go look for these. But when we receive a call about it, obviously we do have to go and check on it then. And it wasn't until the 6th complaint that we received, it was 3 one night and 3 the next night. And at the third one, the second night, is when a citation was actually issued, unfortunately. But at that point, like I said, after receiving 6 complaints, that's why they went ahead and moved forward. The following weekend, the weekend of September 8th, we didn't receive any complaints, but that was the weekend where they had several videos showing of an officer, basically driving back and forth Gulf Boulevard. And I could see, as a business owner, how I would definitely kind of feel like, okay, last weekend you come over several times, and now this weekend you're driving back and forth in front of my business. And so one of the things I was trying to, explain to her is, of course, there's a number of bars through there. The weekend before, we had an incident with a fight and everything that resulted in some guns. And there was, rumbles that there was going to be, some retaliation on that for this coming weekend. So obviously, police presence kind of helps deter that. And so staying very, very active there on Gulf Boulevard. In addition to, there was supposed to be a beach party where there was a homicide that occurred in Galveston, and some family members from the homicide victim was supposed to be retaliating, and that after party was supposed to be there at Freeport at one of the bars. And so we had, again, had some extra police presence for that as well. So I mean, definitely, definitely she's correct. There was extra presence. It wasn't directed at them, but I could definitely see as a business owner, how it would make me feel as well. And so I spent a little bit of time talking with her. Want to follow up again tonight after the meeting and have some more conversations with her to kind of see how things went this last weekend now. So just kind of wanted to give everybody a little bit of update on that.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Can you specify that those events were not going to take place at Casa Azul? Because the wording is a little weird.
No, none of the, none of the information regarding the gun, it was complete, it was at bars that were further down. Those were not associated with Casa Azul. So my apologies, yes, thank you for
Didn't think they
that.
were, but
No.
okay, very good. All right, now, outrigger sign. Mr. Kelty.
Yes, sir. At the last meeting, the gentleman was here in complaining about the fact that he had some issues with his sign for outriggers, and that sign was placed there at the corner of Oak and 2nd Street in Freeport. There's a picture of it right there. They had actually put that sign in almost a year ago, and when they were given notice that it was illegal, they couldn't have a sign there. The city actually adopted a new ordinance that would allow them to put a sign there. It still is required to be permitted. They have to get a permit for that, which would involve the property owner, which is not the business owner, and it has to meet the design requirements of having that type of sign, including windstorm resistance and the like, and be maintained properly. And he had been notified many times in regard to that, the need to come in to apply for a permit. And Ms. Roman, if you want to address the conversations that you might have had with him in regard to the sign?
Yes, for the outrigger sign, we had originally delayed enforcement while City Council was deliberating on changing the sign ordinance. So we did not do any enforcement during the period that y'all were deliberating and then adopted the off-premise sign ordinance. After we adopted the off-premise sign ordinance, Jason came into my office the very next day. We sat down, I gave him a building permit application and explained the requirements for getting that off-premise permit. We've had about 3 conversations since then, and we still don't have an application in our office for that permit.
And that is, I think
and
that's
about-
why the citation has been issued for that
Yes,
sign.
and so the citation was actually issued to the property owner, Percy Beecroft, because he owns the property that the sign sits on. And it has not, I do not believe that it has gone completely through court yet. So we don't know the outcome of the citation.
So what could be done to get the sign up to code?
Well, it is a very rickety old sign, so to me, the hardest effort he's going to have is getting anyone to windstorm certify that, because it has to be anchored for windstorm. We also require a copy of the survey, just making sure that it's not in any easements, that it's meeting your building line setbacks. So really, it's just a survey and a windstorm drawing is what you need for the permit, and of course, the permit application.
The survey. Let me ask you about the survey. I understand if it was closer to the property line. I mean, maybe it's too close to the sidewalk. I don't know.
It's definitely past the building line.
Okay. Well,
And a lot of times what we do to try to help the residents, we ask them to talk to their neighbors, because if a neighbor within that same block can give us a copy of a survey, then we can see where the building lines, where the easements are, where the setbacks are, and we can use that same one if it's on that same block.
And they could potentially also, instead of actually having a survey drawn up, just have a surveyor stake the corner of the property?
Right, they could do that too.
okay.
Because those lines don't change. A 30-year-old survey is still valid.
Okay. All right, thank you. And the
Anything
question
that-
was, is
the
that
question-
survey?
Yes, is it public record? And anything that is submitted to the building department goes into our computer files, and it's completely open record. Anybody can request one from any property.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to say about that rigger sign? Come on, sir. But fill out a form. Thank you.
sign for a while
Go
now.
ahead, go ahead and state your name, Jason.
Jason Hayes, 75 Oak Street. We've been going back and forth over sign, but in order to keep this portable sign, I mean, that's what it is, portable sign. You move in and out, whatever. And monograms, everybody else in Freeport had one all these years, and all of a sudden it's a problem. So, I mean, go back to the survey. I mean, to have an update survey, that's $800 to $1,200 for a survey. Windstorm engineers is minimum $1,500 to have them engineer it, which you can't. So there's no reason for me to get a permit if I can't apply to any of the other stuff. So I came to city council with y'all to get my sign approved prior. And we went through the whole jump thing and y'all approved. Maybe I'll keep my sign there. I even went to Mr. Kelty's office. When we came to the survey, he pulled it all up on his map. He agreed with me that it wasn't on city property in his office. And he said, that's no problem, but we still go back and forth what to do. So we need to figure something out. Sign ordinance. Honestly, do so much. In order for me to keep that sign there, it'd be almost $5,000 to have a sign put there, jumping through the rules and regulations. So,
What about looking to see if there's a prior survey out there of that property?
well, I sat in Mr. Kelty's office with him. He pulled up the plot on his computer in his office and agreed that it wasn't on his property. So, he said we could go without that. So, I mean, that's him saying that in his office, but I ain't got no paperwork, of course, so what do we do?
Okay.
I mean, I thought that's why we came to the last city council meeting, to change the ordinance to where it was able to stay there. But once I got it there, there's added rules and regulations to where it's no need to even bring it there anyways. So we need to figure something out. 'Cause, I mean, the same thing with the noise ordinance. I mean, the decibels. I mean, I was reading y'all's decibels. I went and bought a decibel meter, and just with my jukebox on, it's 68, 70 outside by the road. I mean, it's not loud in the bar, So it's just one of those things that's, going to take a lot of factors to look at.
All right, thanks, sir. Mr. Kelty, O.A. Fleming?
Yes, sir, there's been quite a bit of discussion on social media regarding the plans for O.A. Fleming now that the school has begun the demolition of that project. And I just wanted to let the folks know, I did respond to one woman's request for information. But right now, that's a 9-block area. The city has not yet taken ownership of that. We are hopefully getting relatively close to being able to do that in the land swap with the ISD to be able to take possession of that property. The plan that the council has talked about is, and as part of the agreement, there's a requirement that property be used for residential development. And that is not necessarily, it was suggested that it was to generate additional assessed value for the ISD. They actually want additional population here in Freeport because their student population has dwindled significantly over the last 10 or 15 years. And so they want residential development in the city to bolster their student population, and that's the reason why they included that on there. There was some discussion about 4.5 years ago regarding the possibility of renovating that building and utilizing it for City Hall. We had actually, we didn't actually hire an architect to do that, but I did get a proposal from an architect to do an assessment on the building. Council decided not to move forward with that at that time, but it became a moot point when the school district made it a condition of the transfer of that property to the city that it be torn down and developed as residential property. I think that they are amenable for using a couple of blocks or a small area of that 9-block area for park development, and that will kind of go hand in hand with our need to develop a new park to replace Lincoln Park. And I think that is also in the plans. We have funding budgeted in this next year to be able to do that, as well as start the infrastructure for the residential development.
All right, thanks, sir. Any updates on current infrastructure, sir?
No, sir. Oh, I will say, Thank you, Mayor. We have been underway for about the last 6 weeks on the sewer pipe bursting and the sewer collection system grant that we received from the GLO. It's about a $6 million project that's currently underway. And that project is proceeding. I'm not sure what the length of that contract is. Lance, do you know how long that's supposed to take? About 10 months? But I also want to let council know that we were actually originally going to open bids for the first phase of the wastewater treatment plant. That was that other $6 million grant that we received from the GLO. We were going to open bids last week on that. After the pre-bid meeting, there was some discussion about there's a Buy American steel requirement under the terms of the contract that we thought we had to comply with for the grant, and it was going to drive up the cost considerably. The architect and our grant consultant confirmed with GLO and the federal government that we do not have to comply with that. It was too late in the game to change that for the current bid opening, so the determination was to extend that bid opening so that we could make that modification and that addendum to remove that requirement to hopefully get in better bids. But I will tell you that they have a huge number of plan holders for that project, and at least 8 general contractors, so we're expecting some really good bids, and that will be on the agenda for consideration in October for award.
All right, thank you. Excuse me. All right, thank you, sir. At this time, we'll go into executive session. Prior to that, I will make a motion to include Mr. Kelty in the
Mayor, I was trying to make a motion for including security as well, please.
Let me get my motion first.
Sure.
So I have a motion to include Mr. Kelty. Is there a second?
I'll make that second, Mayor.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Next, we have a motion from Councilman Pena for security to be included in executive session. Is there a second? Is there a second? Hearing none, we're now in executive session.